Welcome to That Eight, a queer food podcast. I'm your host, Justin Burke. There's a place in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, Edy's Grocer, that's a little bit whimsy, a dash or two of zesty, and a whole lot of community. Founded by Edy Massih, it's a Lebanese market and deli that does a banger job catering. But more than that, it's become a bright, welcoming space, especially considering it opened during the pandemic, at a time when most things felt uncertain. Eddie has built something that embraces, fosters, and expands community for his team, for collaborators, and for anyone who walks through the door. And opening the grocer was just one part of it. He's also the author of Keep It Zesty, a cookbook that really reflects who he is, his food, his energy, and that same sense of inclusivity and connection you feel in the space. In this episode, we talk about opening a business during COVID, what it means to create something joyful and inclusive, and how collaboration isn't just part of the business, it's a way of life. And yes, he met Oprah, so we get into that too. I love this episode. It's about food, but it's also identity, resilience, and building something that brings people together. I'm really glad you're here. Edy, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to talk about everything that you're doing. But I think to start everything off, can you just give us a quick introduction of what you've been doing, where you are now, and we'll go from there?
Of course. Hello, everybody. My name is Edy Massih. I'm the owner of Edy's Grocer in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. I published my first ever cookbook, Keep It Zesty, in May of, what was it, 2024?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I own a Lebanese grocer and cafe in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. And I also do lots and lots of catering. And right now, I'm trying to figure out what's next because that's what our life is. It's all about what's next, what's next. But I'm currently enjoying what I've built so far these past 5 years and trying to also figure out what's next for me.
I mean, what you've built is incredible. Huge
Thank you.
fan. Have loved seeing the journey and everything you've done. So I'm sure the what's next is going to be just as awesome. So
Thank you.
excited. But yes, we are glutton for punishment. We're like ready for the next thing.
Where that's just the life that we live nowadays.
Yeah. And that's kind of the expectation, unfortunately. It's like your success can't be enough. Like you have to do more.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
it's a very interesting way of living.
Yep.
Eddie, I wanted to ask you a question because I read one of the articles from Great Jones. You said something about the time of opening up Eddie's during the pandemic. You said, I think we were the first positive story to come out of COVID, that there's a
Hmm.
lot to it. I'm an immigrant, I'm gay, opening a grocer in this neighborhood. I just think it all helped. Can we talk about that? What was it like opening up during the pandemic, all this chaos that was around us? And then Eddie's pops up and it's bright, it's beautiful, it's vibrant. What was that like?
Um, you know, at the time when I was doing it, I didn't realize like what I was doing was like the opposite of what was happening in the world in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of goes because like we live in such a bubble here in New York. And so
Hmm.
I think that I didn't really understand the impact that I was doing and how every other place was closing and shuttering. And, there was all these like sad stories out there. And then we were like the first place to really open during the pandemic here in New York. And
Hmm.
so press was very excited. They were like hungry for a story like this. And I think when you add the levels of being an immigrant and being queer and, being the first ever Lebanese grocer, cafe, whatever you want to call it, in North Brooklyn, there was just we got a lot of attention. And it was beautiful to get that attention because I think like I've been really working hard towards this dream of mine, but also at the same time, I didn't really realize what I was doing at the time. I was 25 years
Yeah.
old. I had
Yeah.
no clue what I was doing, really no, no, no clue what I was doing. And I just went for it. And now that we are 5 years and past our 5 years, to look back and be like, what was I thinking? And how did I even do that? It's crazy because when you're doing it, you don't really think about it. But then when you like look back at it, it's like, wow, I really did that. And
Yeah.
it's also, it's hard to survive as a small business here in New York and Brooklyn in general. And so to be able to have come this far, but also having no outside funding or
Mhm.
investors or anything like that has been a really big milestone on its own. And I think to touch base a bit more about being queer and being an immigrant, I think, both those things are big hurdles in our world,
Mhm.
especially being Middle Eastern in New York. I always have found it very difficult, and I still find it very difficult to this day. And so I think that those things to some people could be positive, but to others could be like, no, thank you. And so
Mhm.
that's been something hard to figure out, manage, and kind of work towards or slash against in a way.
Yeah. It's a lot to being in mid-20s and having this idea and this ambition and just going for it. I miss that mentality of not analyzing the risk
Mhm.
or the potential danger consequences. It's that old phrase, we're indestructible when we're in our 20s. And so I completely understand going for it. And I will say that you did it and you made it look like a pro. I really valued the transparency that you've had since the beginning. You don't hide, at least I haven't seen you hide any of the hurdles or the challenges that come with opening a small business, owning
Mhm.
and operating a small business. But at the same time, when you do talk freely about it or touch on it, you do it in a way that isn't negative. I have found it to be very informative, lifting the veil and like being more transparent. And I really appreciate that. Do you think that that mentality, that transparency that you have, do you think that that comes because you did open during a very chaotic, dark time, a sad time? Do you feel this sense of responsibility to be that light, that happy place, or that hope?
I think at the time I didn't because I didn't really fully comprehend what I was doing.
Mhm.
Of course, I started a brand, but I didn't think of myself as like a light in a way. I
Mhm.
think now I do view it that way and I do look at it that way. And I also do feel, a bit of I don't wa pressure, but, like, also not pressure, just that kind of, like, holding the torch and kind of keeping the light on that torch,
Yeah.
and keeping it going, and I think that is, like, for our community, for our employees, and for, the people that are close to the Grocer family.
Yeah, it's an ecosystem,
Mhm,
regardless of the size of it. And running a business, running a food business, there's a lot of responsibility for others' livelihoods.
mhm,
And you really do have to remove yourself as the owner, remove ego and narcissism that can and sometimes often comes with ownership within this industry
yep,
and really think of the communities that you serve, whether those are your guests, your teammates, the neighborhood that you're in. So, yeah, now that we're talking about this, makes sense for my next question, which your name is on the building, like it is Edy's Grocer, but it is such a collaborative environment. You foster other people's talents, you foster this community, your team's talents. And I think that's amazing. It's remarkable how you have built this platform and you're creating shared space. You're allowing this tool that we are given, these platforms to uplift others. When you were going into starting this, when you were starting Eddie's, did you know at the beginning you wanted it to be a collaborative environment, or is that something that came through just the natural progression of a small business growth?
I mean, I've always liked to collaborate with people, and I don't think that was, like, the first like, that wasn't on my, like, goal list or part of my
Yeah.
business plan whatsoever when I was opening up the grocer, but I think as we opened and as I met more people in the industry and as people reached out, I was like, "I have the space, and, like, let's use it to
Hmm.
collaborate with other people," and that is that just happened truly very naturally. I think the first ever collab that we did was with Waldy, one of my good
Mhm.
friends, and then it was like Jamesy, another one of like my really, really good friends. And then it was like people liked the idea of these things and it kind of just kept growing in that sense. And I think that to me, collaborating is just like it's just so fun. It's so
Yeah.
fun to work with other chefs and learn from other chefs and be able to do these like mashups of different cultures
Mhm.
together. And also, I think that when you cook the same things over and over again, it gets boring. You know what I mean? It
Yeah. Oh,
becomes
yeah.
less cooking and more robotic and more of like a to do. And so having fun with these collaborations kind of makes the job more fun and makes it more exciting and makes it worthwhile to look forward to these kind of collabs and working with different chefs.
Yeah, these collaborations, we're seeing like how food intersects in so many different ways and how it's lived in and different perspectives and the similarities of the collaborators' perspectives and POVs. And I think it's just a good example of the liveliness of food that unfortunately isn't always talked about or shown or given space to live as it should. It's really powerful and it's a good message. Do you just like have like an open door policy essentially? Like how do
You
you
know,
do that?
I'm very open. People reach out all the time.
Mhm.
And I think to me, it's not about, how many followers you have and who do you know and what are you going to bring
Yeah.
to the table. I just think it's about like, does this sound fun to me to do? Is this worthwhile? And is this something that is this like a culture or somebody that I want to like learn from or work with and have fun with?
Mhm.
Most of the time the answer is yes. And so I go for it. And so that's what's made this so fun. And I think to me, um, I again, when I first started doing this, I didn't realize where it would be now. And,
Mhm.
we started with these like small brunch pop ups, and then we started the dinner series. And now we do like brunch pop ups, baked good pop ups. We do the dinners as well. We also collaborate with brands as well. And
Mhm.
so I think that's like just the growth in so many different ways, but it's all about who knocks on my door, my email, my texts, my DMs,
Yeah.
and what sparks joy for me.
That's fantastic. I love that approach because we have to remember, like, as individuals in this industry, we were once those young, aspiring creatives in food that, I mean, I'm sure you and I can talk endlessly about how many DMs or emails we sent that went unanswered,
Oh my god,
or there was just like, who do you think you are to like approach me? And
it all happens now.
yeah, it's so disappointing because I don't care who you like, what your following is or what you've accomplished prior. Like, if you have a good idea, if you have interesting story and like, I want to share that. I want to help share that
Mm,
and also learn. It's also learning too. Like you can
yeah,
learn so much if you just set aside the ego and the vanity
yep.
and collaborate. Which kind of leads me to my next question, which this is a good transition. And correct me if I have any of this information wrong, but so you moved to the States after 9/11 and you landed in Boston, Massachusetts, which
Mhm,
huge shift for your family. Also intense in America.
mhm,
Uh, few years later, Massachusetts then is the first state to legalize same sex marriage.
mhm.
Which, interesting enough, we were both in Massachusetts and Boston at the same time, but our paths never crossed. So there was a lot of things happening for you. Um, Navigating life as a queer Lebanese immigrant in post 9/11 Boston. How much of that experience influences entrepreneurship in creating a safer, joyful space for the communities that you belong to, but also for the communities that you touch?
I would say that, like, growing up in Boston doesn't have as much an influence, to be totally honest with you, as
Yeah.
much an influence of who I am now,
Okay.
as much as, like, moving to New York and navigating New York had an influence of where I am now and my identity now, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I
that makes
feel
sense.
like I feel like I moved to Boston when I was 10, like, I think, like, I was too young to, like,
Mhm.
really understand. I was still trying to learn 2006, 2008, I was still trying to learn English, and
Yeah.
so, I don't think that, like, those things, like, really resonated with me, and I think, like,
Mhm.
when I moved to the US, I was just trying to A, trying to learn English, B, trying to fit in, C, just, like, trying to navigate who I am now and, like, where
Mhm.
I belong, and, like, schools are so cliquey, Boston's very cliquey,
Yes.
everything is just, like, different. It's just all very, very different and very whitewashed as well, and so I
Yes.
think that for me, I was just trying to identify who am I really within like this whole new world that I'm living in. And so I think that that's what I was trying to do at the time. And I think like fast forward to like moving to New York City, then like it's a whole new world.
Mhm.
It's a jungle of it all here and trying to now that I know what my identity is, trying to like be that identity in a way within this world here, that was very hard, but that put that, like, fire under my ass
Mhm.
to really make that, like, safe haven for myself and for others as well that I wasn't able to find here in New York when I first moved here. And I think, like, when I moved here, now it's been 11 years since I moved to New York. It was, like, before the Me Too movement, it was before the
Mhm.
Black Lives Matter, it was before a lot of these different things, and so I think that all these different, things that happened in the past 10 years in life, those have shed a lot of light on different things. And
Mhm.
so I think for me, I never like, walking into a restaurant kitchen, you always felt like wrong as a queer person, or you just felt
Yeah. Yeah.
unwelcome. And so I think I was just trying to find a safe place for myself, which was hard to find. And so when it came to time for me to make that space, I knew I had to make like a safe haven for different people that were like me when I first moved to New York. And I think we've very much hit on that with the grocer. And, well, whenever people reach out for jobs or to help out or whatever, I think that they do view us as that safe space, and I think, like,
Mhm.
that is why I mean, I have some amazing, amazing employees and why, I'm able to keep them as long as I've kept them around and
Yeah.
cherish their hard work. I've had a lot of our 3 or 4 of our employees have been around since day 1, since I've opened, which is
That's
kind of unheard
fantastic.
of in New York.
Yeah, that's
Or,
amazing.
one of our cashiers has been around now for 4 years. And so that's like really truly unheard of in New York.
Yeah.
So, that to me just proves a lot. And there's a lot of people that have worked at the grocer for 3 years, 2 years, and that to me is huge because in New York, it's a revolving door and it's like, what's next? And I think
Mhm.
because we have built such a safe haven for people, I've been able to keep people around for as long as I've been able to keep people around.
That's fantastic. How did you create community for yourself when you first moved to New York? Um, like, what were those steps of finding,
I mean,
like, your chosen family?
yeah, I think, well, the food industry, I mean, social media wasn't what it is now, of course, 10 years ago,
True.
11
Yeah.
years ago, wasn't what it is now. And so, and there was a lot more, I mean, people didn't look down at their phones as much as they do now. People used to
Mhm.
talk to each other. People used to have
Yeah.
conversations at the bar
Eye contact.
and eye contact, and, I think there was something about that, but, I mean, there's 2 ways. One is through the restaurant world. You know,
Mhm.
you become family with the people that you work with,
Yeah.
and the people that I worked with at North End Grill, I still like, I saw a few of them not that long ago at a restaurant, and they all were like, "Oh my god, it's Edy," and one of them I'm in touch with right now. She's working at a hotel in upstate New York, and I'm gonna go do an event there. And it's like,
Awesome.
this was like a chosen family. I mean, you had family meal with them every day.
Mhm.
Family meal was like literally sitting with your own family at home. And
Yeah.
so this is who you had lunch with, dinner with, who you worked with, who you spent most of the day with. And so that was one way to like really find a chosen family in that sense. And then the other way was, I mean, you probably know the Jari magazine days, but
Mhm. Yeah.
that's like a really beautiful time to be alive in New York, you know? Like
Yeah.
it brought queer food people together, and I got to meet a lot of people that way. I That's where I met Waldy. That's where I met a lot of food friends that I'm still friends with now. And that was like, I thank Lucas Fulger all the time for
Mhm.
opportunity of those events that he did and that magazine and all that because that really brought us together. And I wish we still had that food community in a way now. Uh,
Yes.
it's
It was
not.
such a groundbreaking it was
It
so
was.
groundbreaking,
It was. It really,
and
really was.
I mean, I completely like, I understand, like, to me, like, that magazine, I was just like, "Where has this been? Like, where has
Yes.
this community been?" Like, we've been
Yes.
searching for it, and I agree, like, I wish that was still around, especially
Yeah,
now.
especially now. And, like, the articles and just meeting the people at the events, and I think I learned a lot about our queer food world. I met a
Mhm.
lot of people, and that was, like, another stepping stone into finding more and more chosen family and friends and people in the industry that I could relate and talk to and hang out with. And so that's really how I, was able to kind of, meet people here in the city.
That that makes sense. We'll get back to Eddie's, but I wanna start talking because this seems like an appropriate, transition. Your cookbook, Keep It Zesty. Such a fantastic book. Like, you demsified Lebanese food, like, you honor its roots and its culture, and you're also making this connection to American home cooks through its relevance and familiarity. Such a well-crafted, well-balanced book, and
Thank
it
you.
seemed like it's intentional, but it wasn't authoritative. It was very just natural, and I just like, let's talk about this book. First off, was that always an idea? Like, did you always want to write a cookbook, or was that something that was approached to you and you're like, okay, let's marinate this and think if this is possible?
I've always wanted to write a cookbook, that's for sure. I don't think
Hmm.
I had plans to do it, like, in my 20s, that's for sure,
Hmm. Yeah.
and I almost wish I waited a little bit longer to write a book. I know it's
Hmm.
out there now and that's done, but I never expected myself to do this book, um, to do a cookbook this early in my career, but it
Sure.
happened. And when I right after I opened up the grocer, like October, I opened in
Hmm.
August, October, HarperCollins reached out about writing a book, and I was like, "No way, no!" Like I couldn't even get out of the kitchen from the grocer before
Yeah.
midnight every day. I mean, it was hard at first to do it all. So that was very difficult. I'll say that. That was very difficult,
Hmm.
but I never thought I would be writing a book this early on in my career, but it just naturally kind of happened right after year 2 of the grocer. That's when I was like, "Okay, it's time to start, like, stepping out of the kitchen. I don't need to be in
Hmm.
the kitchen every day anymore." And so all the recipes were in my brain for the grocer, and it's like, obviously, I had a lot of great help with prep, but then I would, like, be cooking everything. So then
Yeah.
I was, "Alright, let's start writing all these recipes down." And that was the first step to do, was to write all the recipes down for the grocer itself. And then once we, like, got all the recipes down at the grocer, that's when I was like, and then I started stepping out of the kitchen. I was like, well, maybe it's time for me to work on this book. And that's when, I mean, HarperCollins had reached back out to do something. And that's when I was like, all right, you know what? Maybe it's time to do this. And like, I think I'm confident enough to be able to do this. And that's when we started the journey. And it's so funny because people always think like you write, like the book happens overnight. It's like a long, 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 treacherous
Yeah.
process. Uh,
Painful. It's painful, especially your
it's
first one.
it's painful. 2 years of definitely, yes, it's a lot of work. But I think that I'll to answer your question, I've always wanted to write a book, but I didn't know that this was the right time to do it. And of course, now it's done and I'm so happy it's out in the world. But still wish I waited a little bit longer. I think to like grow my name and grow what I've been working on and to
Hmm.
be able to have the book be even bigger than what it was.
I will say, as an outsider, it made sense for it to come out when it came out. Like, it was a tangible thing that people could have to feel a part of Eddie's Grocer if they were not in Brooklyn. And I think
Yes.
what was beautiful And one of the best advice I ever got in the industry is, as I was preparing my own ownership for the bakery, was, as an owner, don't work in the business, work on the business. And I was like, oh, I can't always be making the croissants. Like I have to get out. But it's a lesson that we have to learn ourselves. Like we have to come to terms with that. Um, but yeah, I think, I mean, I saw your book everywhere. Like people were talking about it, and it visually represented so many people's interests and like lives that I don't think, maybe you didn't even realize that you were going to touch so many people with your story and your message. I just would love to know, when it was time to come writing Keep It Zesty, how did you approach it as both like a love letter, literally, to like Lebanese food, and a reflection of your queer community and identity?
I think it's my story, you know what I mean? So, let me explain this. So, when it came to writing the book, I wrote the recipes first,
Hmm.
and I did the breakdown of the chapters first, and then I was like, "Alright, let's write the introduction." So then I was working on the introduction, and
Yeah.
I think I wrote like a 20 or 30-page introduction, and I my editor was like, this is not a novel. We
Yeah.
gotta
Thanks for the novel.
yeah, we gotta break this down." And so, I think we took the 20 or 30 pages and made it 5 pages. That's the beginning, that's the intro of the book. And so, we then had to take so much away from it, and there was also all these stories that were part of the introduction about these different
Hmm.
women that have shaped me to be who I am today. And so, I took those stories and I made them into letters to these ladies, and those became, like, these 6 stories that were, like, weaved throughout the book, and then we were able to cut down on the introduction. And I think for me, I wasn't trying to be like, "I want this message or that message in the book or in the introduction." I just wanted my story. That's all I wanted. Was I
Hmm.
wrote my heart out. I wrote my story out there from start to finish, and then I was able to, like, edit it to be what it is, to what's in the book now.
Yeah.
And so I never had this, like, intention of, like, trying to, like, weave in the queerness or weave in, like, the immigrant part of things or all that, but, of course, that's who I am and that's my story, and so it just was written that way.
Hmm.
And I am very happy with the letters that we did, like, that we ended up doing those letters to the 6 ladies that have shaped me to be who I am, because I felt like that is a really big part of my story, and that is who I am today.
Yeah.
Without these ladies, I wouldn't be here. And so I was just very happy that I decided to do that, and I wanted to take those stories away and do that, and that my editor let me do that because, like, my editor was like, "We gotta cut down. We gotta cut down. We gotta cut
Hmm.
down." I was, like, so married to the story that I was like, "How the hell are we gonna cut this down?" And so I'm
Yeah.
glad that we found this, like, happy medium to be able to tell my story and paint it the way that I wanted it to be painted, and by not taking away too much.
I'm very glad and grateful that they gave you the autonomy to like tell your story, because I think when we, as individuals who are sit in the not mainstream picture of what we should be, we know in our hearts that we're not the only ones with this story, and it will resonate. Even if it resonates with one person, success right there. And that's why Keep It Zesty and what you're doing is so important, because there are others like you. There are others with parallel, similar, like carbon
Mhm.
copy stories. And if we don't provide those, the visibility and representation, then it's just going to be an ongoing cycle of like depression and sadness, and really not a beautiful, colorful world. You mentioned it. You broke the book up 6 women in your
Letters.
life.
Yep.
One of them was Oprah, right?
Yes. Yes.
I about fell out of my chair when I saw you with Oprah. I was like, "That's amazing." Like, "That's so fantastic." Like, how did that happen? Like, let's take a moment. Like, that's a special moment. Like, that's amazing.
Um It was a beautiful moment. It was really, really a beautiful moment. And, I really believe in putting things out in the world. I've
Mhm.
always said I'm gonna, meet Oprah one day. Like, that was just like one of my ultimate goals, like just writing a book and all these things that I just say out loud, and you just repeat it and you repeat it, and and it happens. And so, when I moved to America, I was a huge Oprah fan, would watch Oprah
Mhm.
every day. And I was just always in awe by her interviews, especially during the early days of watching her, like, in 2004 and stuff. Like, she was having these raw interviews. Later on, it became, I don't know, no offense to the Oprah Winfrey Show, but it became a lot of press stuff. But at the early days, there was all these amazing interviews of like her really talking to people and really there that type of TV just doesn't we don't have that type of TV anymore nowadays.
Yeah.
But anyways, so fast forward to writing the book, I knew that I had to dedicate a letter to her because she was really a big part of who I am now and really part of like my identity. And I think she helped me out a lot with coming out as gay because she was interviewing gay people on TV before anybody was
Mhm.
interviewing gay people on TV. She
Yeah.
was interviewing people with AIDS, and
Mhm.
she gave a spotlight to us that no one else was really doing. And um, so I knew that I had to write this letter, and I wrote this letter, and I we sent an email to her people. She's got lots of
Mhm.
people,
Yeah.
and
People for their people.
yes, and, we sent an email out to her people, and we didn't hear back. It was like I sent it out in February, and I didn't hear back
Mhm.
at all, and then in April, I heard from her assistant, and he DM'd me, and he was like, "Hey, are you at the grocer today?" And I was like, "Now I am." I was like, "Why?
Yeah.
What's going on?" And
I
he
will
was
be.
like, "I'm gonna stop by to say hi." And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "Is Oprah coming into the grocer today?" Like, I was just like, "What's going on?" And then he
Yeah.
came to the grocer and he had lunch, with another coworker, who just came by the grocer yesterday. And, so they came by and they, like, started recording me, and I was like, literally, Oprah's gonna walk around the corner, like, something's going on. And then he told me that, "Oprah read your story, and she really loved it and wants to invite you into her office to meet her." And, next Friday, this was, like, Sunday, and they were like, "Next
Yeah.
Friday, like, at this time, be ready, and we'll see you at her office." And I, like, obviously was screaming, but it's also, like, 5 or 6 days away, and I'm like, "How am I gonna sleep for the next 6 days? Like, how
Yeah.
am I
I
gonna
mean,
sleep? How can we fast forward time?"
ugh.
And she invited me to her office, and I showed up, and it was beautiful. I really thought it was gonna be like, we take a picture, hi and bye, and I
Mhm.
had, a lovely moment with her. It was 12 minutes, and it was the most beautiful 12 minutes. Mind you, I definitely blacked out because I don't remember much, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
so thankful that her assistant and her people recorded it and sent it to me so that way I could, like, cherish it and have it with me forever. But it was really, truly it was amazing. It was amazing. And right before I she came into the room, I was in the room with, um, 2 people.
Mhm.
Uh, One of them was I think his name is Callan. He was, like, always on the Ellen DeGeneres show. I can't read.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about, and
What's
I cannot Callan
Kalen?
Kellen
Kalen,
Kalen
yeah,
Kalen.
Kalen, who
Yeah.
is who I'd been seeing forever, and I was like, "Oh my god,
Mhm.
love this guy," and Monique from High School Musical, and
Oh, yeah.
I, like, was a High School Musical, like, fanatic, like, I love so, like, Monique and I were both so nervous about meeting Oprah, and she was, like, holding my hands and hugging me, and I was hugging her, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on right now? Like,
Yeah.
how
This
room,
is
like, hugging Monique, and, like, we're, like, freaking out about meeting Oprah, and I was like, What's going on? Like, how is this even real?"
yeah.
And then, like, out of nowhere, just Oprah walks into the room, and it was a lot. It was crazy. It was
Yeah.
definitely very, very crazy. But it was really beautiful, and I'll never, those are type of moments that
Yeah.
you'll cherish forever, and it's a memory that is deep in my heart and deep in my brain forever. April 19th, 2024.
I mean, I it was so amazing to see that happen. Like, it was a message that reiterates over and over again anytime you see it or when others see it, um, revisiting it or for the first time, that nothing is off the table. Like, their opportunities are limitless. Your dreams, your aspirations, like you can do it just with grace and a support system, confidence, but not an ego.
Mhm.
And like, what a great example. But also Oprah. Like, you're absolutely I remember being very young. I think I was staying home because I was sick or something, and we were watching Oprah, and it was the AIDS episode. Like, I watched the AIDS episode when it aired the first time. And, I come from a very conservative, um, family and community, and she gave me context before I knew I needed context of who I was,
Mhm.
and that she does that for so many people, so many people.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, yeah. Mm, living through you because that's amazing. Like, I would have thrown up,
Thank
honestly.
you.
I think I would have thrown up.
It was quite a moment, to me now, the next goal is to cook for her, and I know it will happen, like, I
Yeah.
just know it will happen one
Yeah.
day, but it really is, it's really beautiful, and I think obviously what she's done over the years and how many people she's touched and helped out. Like,
Mhm.
she didn't have to meet me. She has a million other things to do. She does not have to spend
Yeah.
that time. And I think that is what's so beautiful about her is that she cares and she lives off of that well-being of meeting people and
Mhm.
really genuinely having that face-to-face interaction. She could have sent me an email. She could have
Yep.
given me a quick phone call or something. But she cares about that, like, face to face, human to human interaction. And I think
Mhm.
there's something to say about that because a lot of these celebrities out there just nowadays, it's like, whatever, you know?
It's very superficial. I
Yeah.
th I've always classified Oprah as a prime example of the generosity of human connection. She understands the power of human connection.
She really does. She really, really
Yeah.
does. Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the goals of the podcast, that 8, something that I've always wanted to see more of is the intersection of queer food in different cultures, races, religion. I would love to talk about, like, how does queerness show up for you in Lebanese food? Like, is it very forward? Is it quietly? And how have you rewritten it or reclaimed it through community or ritual, the food you share? Like, how does queer food intersect into Lebanese food for you?
I think that queer food intersect within Lebanese food for me is with the people that you're enjoying it with in a way,
Mhm.
and that, like, chosen family. I think that the way that I've modernized some of my grandmother's recipes is adding
Mhm.
my queer touch to it and having fun with it and adding zest to it. But I also really think that it's about the company too. I have 2 amazing friends, who I met many years ago, 8 years ago, I would say now. They're 2 Syrian fellows, and they, have opened their arms and home and everything to me, and they were, like, some of the first people that I met in New York that were Middle Eastern and queer, and, were so open and inviting to me, and I had not met one Middle Eastern queer person here in New York really
Mhm.
at that time, and so, um I've cooked now a lot with them, and they host all the time, and, they have a home out in Fire Island, and I'll go out there, and we cook a lot, and whenever I'm cooking with one of them, I that to me, like, those moments
Mhm.
is queer food to me, and, it's like you're on Fire Island, you are cooking the food that you grew up with a little bit of a twist, of course, but
Mhm.
it's got that, like, company of, like, sitting down at the table and maybe being a little hungover or whatever it is. You're just you're by the pool, you're having a glass
Mhm.
of rosé, and you're indulging in this food, and it almost there in that moment makes it you know, queer Lebanese food. It's not
Yeah.
about the food that's on the plate, but it's more of the company in a way, or like when we're
100%.
Yeah, when we're packing up these, like, little snacks and taking them down to the beach and, they have a hookah, and they'll bring a hookah down to
Mhm.
the beach, and, like, that is queer culture, like, in Fire Island, like, nobody else on the beach in Fire Island is bringing Middle Eastern snacks nobody eats over
Yeah.
there, but also he is bringing a hookah down to the beach, and that to me is like really my queer life, my food culture really coming together as one. And so I think that to me is queer food. It's about the
Yeah.
people that you get to share the food with, especially if they're part of your culture, because
Yes.
kind of have fun with it.
Queer food is not essentially like a tangible thing that we think of like an ingredient or a skill. It is always like this full package of an experience, the people around you, the sense of hospitality, community. But I also find it too, and this is why I've been pushing for more queer food voices to talk about what queer food means to them is, and you just said it, and I want to reiterate this, like being on Fire Island with, your chosen family, hookah, like that's queer food because you're enjoying food. But then like you have this commonality. It's another layer of closeness of this is our food, our shared food culture too. Like we can talk about our favorite dishes and who used to make them in our blood families and our communities. And you're just adding the richness to what queer food is. Like there's many layers to it, and it really does touch upon every walk of life. Just wish more people would know that and accept it. I have two more questions left. As someone who has a platform and with a cookbook and a very successful business, if you could provide advice to young queer or immigrants or queer immigrants trying to find their place in food, whether they're already in it now or entering that, what would be advice that you would give them?
I mean, I have so much advice, but I think the first advice I have is let time play its course. When I moved here 11 years ago, I was like, I'm never going to make it. This world is too hard. Meh, 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 meh. And time just really plays itself out.
Mhm.
Like, even when I first opened the grocer, I was like, we'll never be successful. This is so much work. Am I ever like not going to be working 24/7? And like, look at where we are now. And I think like now I'm in this rut of like, what's next? What's going on? What's happening?
Yeah.
Like, just like little things. And then I know in a few years, I'll be like, why was I even in that rut? In that, why was I even in that moment when like
Mhm.
there was all these stores that were going to eventually open up or come knocking my way? Or like go back to like 11-year-old Eddie watching Oprah and being like, oh, I'll never meet her, but I want to. But like, look at where I am now. And so I think time really plays its course as long as you're working hard during that time.
Mhm.
Things happen. You just gotta let just life be itself. And other advice I have is uh, two things I would say. Put yourself out there. It's all about putting yourself out there. It's all about sending that email, even if they don't answer, reaching
Mhm.
out to the person, knocking at this person's door, helping out for free, learning from things. I mean, I did that so, so, so much, like really, truly so much, and it got me places. And it's all about learning. And I
Mhm.
think like all these little things along the way, you get to learn so much, and your brain just grows with that. Outside of like
Yeah.
college, there's just so much to learn in this world.
Mhm.
And then the last thing I would say is having goals and to-do lists. I've always had goals. I always have yearly goals. I always have 5-year goals. I always write my goals down. I put them out into the world. I talk about them. I share them with friends. I dream about them. I journal about them, and they come to life because when you put intention into something, you will get it done. If you care enough, you will get it done. And then I think the to-do list part goes hand in hand with that. Without a to-do list, you'll never achieve a goal, whether it's, putting on your to-do list every day, like, emailing this person, doing this, the 5-minute break for yourself, whatever it is, and checking it off. There's something about that I mean, at least for me, I love that feeling of like
Yeah.
putting in to-do lists and getting it done and keep going at the to-do list and getting it done. There's something about achieving a to-do list, but also there is that you can only hold yourself accountable to things. So with that to-do list, you're holding yourself accountable. And if there's that like, I have always my to-do list has like 50 things on it, but there's like always those two things that are on that to-do list that have been sitting there for 4 weeks. And I'm
Mhm.
like, when am I going to get to that? But then after I read it for 4 weeks straight, I'm like, okay, well, today's the day I'm going to get this done. And I do it and
Yeah.
I cross it off and it feels good. And so, yeah, I think those are all my little
Yeah.
notes for the younger generation.
That is great advice, especially time. Time. We don't need that instant gratification. All right. Last question.
Yes.
Um, I'm a firm believer that queer food professionals, we can do so much more of lifting up one another and sharing our platforms and opening doors for them and cheering them on. So I am curious if you have food professional stars, chefs, food stylists, photographers, writers, farmers, businesses that you think we should know about, and they could potentially become a future guest on the podcast.
We had pressure.
No pressure, but
Um, Other queer individuals. Okay, I'll start off by saying, I mean, he worked at the grocer for quite some time.
okay.
Jordan Smith, love him and love everything that he does. And he is quite a baker. He's very talented, and I know he's gonna make it big one day. And I know he's gonna
Okay.
write a cookbook, and I know he's gonna have it published. So I would say that he is definitely somebody that I would give a shout out to. If you don't
Okay.
follow Jordan or know Jordan Smith, definitely do.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Eddie. I really appreciate you taking the time speaking with us. This was fantastic. And yeah, I hope you figure out what that next big step is because I know that I am very excited about whatever you do.
Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me on today.
That's episode 8 with Edy Massih. Now go check out Keep It Zesty, visit Eddie's Grocer next time you're in Brooklyn, and keep supporting spaces that bring people together. Oh, and don't forget to collaborate a little more. Take care.